So you are waiting for more people to come online?
Yeah.
No, see, I couldn't realize that you have done so much of research work is unbelievable. It's so much unbelievable.
Well,
I did not know anything. Now I feel that Gandhi, he has harmed Hindus more than any Islamic invader. You
oh,
know,
yes. Yes, absolutely.
and
And
it
it
is
is a shameful thing.
and it is still continuing. It is still going on. That is the worst part.
That is the worst part.
Yeah.
Acha, Rajiv ji, are we starting?
Yes, yes,
And it is live stream?
yes.
Okay. Namaste, everyone. This time, it is we are already in partition 13 session. And interesting thing is that King Nehru became almost like a king. And the topic is now, how did he lay down the foundations of a decadent dynasty? Now, this is very important to understand that Congress party and most of the people in India, they vowed that they will never again be under a king or a queen. So we will never have a king again. And this is right in the very next 5 years, how he bypassed the constitution and bypassed the parliament and ignored everybody else. And he started ruling the country according to his own ideals, whims, arrogance, and without consulting anybody. In his own words, he wrote, I am the last Englishman to rule India. How pathetic that we are, after 1947 August, we are still being ruled by an Englishman. In my likes and dislikes, I was perhaps more an Englishman than an Indian. I looked upon the world from an Englishman's standpoint. And Jamshedji Tata once wrote, Nehru was an ignoramus in economic matters, and he insisted on the business of socialism. Now, what does that mean? That says a lot. First of all, he did not know anything about economics. He did not anything about Indian history, ancient traditions. And culturally, he was not rooted in India. And Hindi also, he spoke with a little bit of accent. And he really didn't belong there. So it was a shameful thing that without anybody's consent, Gandhi made Nehru the prime minister. And that is the first thing. Appointment of a prime minister is one of the first violation of the constitution, that he did not represent the people. And nor did the constitution was based on any referendum. So this is the first pillar of democracy, fell right on that day. And then election were a single horse race. Most of the Hindu-minded people, they belong to the Congress and they continue to belong to the Congress, like Shama Prasad Mukherjee, Mahavir Tyagi, and Kamraj. Almost many of them who they were Hindus, and they were Hindu-minded people. And that is why the constitution also, as I showed last time, that it was kind of, trying to link with the tradition and with the epics. So, but then as soon as he became the prime minister, anybody who disagreed with him, he just asked them to do some social service. volunteer service on behalf of the party, and you don't have to be really be the minister or in the parliament. So this was a very high-handed and extremely uh, autonomous kind of autocratic thing. So he put then, this is Mahavir Tyagi said, and those who understand Hindi, यारों के सर काट कर सरदार बन गए. That all those friends who stood by actively in the freedom struggle, he got rid of them and he became the king of everything. So right away, he started putting equality above liberty. And this is what we are going to explain. If we don't have liberty, we can't have equality. So we can never put equality before liberty. Who is free to be equal then? So first comes liberty, then comes equality. So elimination of the opposition. So Shama Prasad Mukherjee was gotten rid of, got killed, quite a few others, and Brahmins were cowed down, which meant that people like Govind Vallabh Pant, they had to either echo in that parliament, whatever Nehru says, he would do that. And this was another shameful thing. Ambedkar was not even nominated the next time. After first time he resigned. So he was out of the picture. So all the well-wishers of the country, they were somehow sidelined, gotten rid of. And his part was, he was just wanted to be a single party rule, Congress and nothing else. And this is exactly what is going on now. And we are building the background that after 70 years of independence, why people are still poor, we do not have any semblance of equality, and there's no democracy. So what exactly was going on in those beginning years that Nehru laid down the foundation? There is only single party, so it was one horse race. It's not even a race. So elimination of the opposition, suppression of dissent, elimination of the prevailing affluent class. So he took care of that also. And of course, in this entire process, Maulana Azad was his right-hand person. If we do not know, many of you do not know about Maulana Azad, he was not born in India. He belonged to Makkah. His family came from there. And he was a Maulana. So very fanatic. And in 1941 itself, in the Congress session as president, he declared, one, Brahmins would shed their orthodoxy. What does that mean? You see, orthodoxy is our traditions. So, and what will then they do? Become modern, like in the sense? And then he said that Hindus will preserve the traditions of the Muslims. Now they can observe their orthodox desert religion. Hindus cannot follow their dharma. So this is, and he was education minister. He was human resources minister. So you see how he laid down the foundation of what became a decadent democracy, if it is democracy. Elimination of the prevailing affluent class. So the sycophants started rising to the ranks, clipping the wings of the scholars by encroaching on their liberties. So on the name of secularism, anybody who had knowledge of Sanskrit, he was sidelined because we are secular. And even people like Rajendra Prasad, who was president of the country, he had no freedom of speech, even though he did say that I am I will be a Hindu and I will observe Hindu festivals. If you go back in Nehru's time and even after that, there was never any Hindu festival celebrated in the parliament, you see, or even acknowledged that today is our Diwali and this is what it means. So, or today is this function. So, this is how he clipped the wings of the scholars and started converted them into communist, secular, Muslim mindset. This is what is rotten in the educational system today. After 8 years of Modi's rule, he's still not able to come to the grips of the situation in the schools and colleges. The JNU, and these are hub of all the anti-nation activities. So this is he did right away in the first 3 years. So pillars of democracy started crumbling right in 1950 when J&K became a separate state. And then that is autonomy of J&K. All freedom started shrinking. You see, press was off and on blocked. Even radio stations were blocked. If Nehru wanted that people should not hear about it, radio stations were asked to block it. So this is the kind of thing he did right away in the very first few years. And of course, people like us, even though we were at that time young adults working, we somehow did not understand what was going on and where the country was going. If you get just about this tidbit and this tidbit and this sound bite, you cannot connect that what is going to happen to the forest itself. Well, one tree is knocked down, well, probably. But then you see the whole forest is being denuded. This was something that we all were blind to, or the reality was glossed over. Okay. Now this became a Soviet-style socialism. So how this became, Nehru was obsessed with socialism. In 1927, when he went to Russia and they showed him the prisons, and in the prisons, you see, what he saw was people living so lavishly. And he was amazed. And he was given such royal treatment in the railway journeys. He was totally mesmerized. So he said, this is the kind of model I want. And he did not understand that by nature, Hindus are not communists. They never can be, because that is giving free will, not to yourself, but to the state. And by nature, we are not, we believe in karma and we believe in free will, that each has a freedom to find his own path, her own path to the salvation, or wrong word, self-realization. So we are not communist in any sense. So he started fragmentation of land holdings. So this is here he passed the Jagirdari Act, which was not a bad thing at that time, because those Thakurs were really exploiting the people, the tenants. So, but this meant a blow to the agriculture, because the tenants got small parcels of land. They could, with that much land, little land, they could not afford to do any modernization of agriculture, or buy any machines, or use modern improved seeds, nothing of that thing. So you see, this is breaking up the previously rich class. In a way, it is a good thing, but not at the expense of agriculture and to the detriment of society. This became a small, fragmented agricultural land, and all improvement stopped. So and by the way, there were agricultural institutes started, and they started some research, but they were not funded. So A, they were unable to do the research. B, they were unable to convey, translate into their research into actual practical measures. Again, because it was blocked at certain levels, and I'll explain that a little later. And communist Soviet intervention. This became so rampant that every file was shown to the Soviet spies. They penetrated into every ministries. And for giving 100 rupees to a clerk, they could see the file. And not only that, they could also guide the secretaries by inviting them to their embassies and just like giving them lavish trips to Soviet Union and brainwashing them. They penetrated every department, made them communist leaning under the name of secularism, changing their curriculum, whatever the Snatam Dharam institutes were teaching, or Arya Samaj institutes were teaching. All of that was covered by a blanket kind of curriculum, NCERT under that. So the whole country was for sale. In fact, Russians, one of them remarked that the country is for sale. All you need is bring a suitcase full of cash. So what does that mean? A, he started secularism and destroyed Hindu traditions. He destroyed Hindu upper class, middle class, and he infringed on their freedoms on the name of equality, and he started corruption. You see, this is high-class corruption at the highest level. And long-term effects, people are watching. Not people are watching, they are tolerating. And they are just, when I go to Punjab, and they say, कि जी system के साथ चलना पड़ता है. What does that mean? That we have to go by the current system. If they are asking for bribe, give it to them and get rid of the problem. So these are the long-term effects. Think of today, think of that time, what happened 75 years back. We are now in the same cesspool. So 5-year plans, that was a great idea. In fact, that was the only great idea, but then it became a paper castle. Every expenditure was shown, this much is allocated to agriculture, industry, heavy public industry, steel industry, electricity, all on paper. Nothing was done in reality. After the first 5-year plans, all the other 5-year plans were paper castles. Expansion of public sector. That was his dream, that eventually all industries should be nationalized and like Soviet style, and every industry should be given a certain quota of natural resources, and that is what they are going to use. That became licensing of natural resources. So we all understand now that how one thing led to the next level and to the next level, I mean, on downwards. So it started the license Raj. What happened? People didn't have to do anything. Some of the influential people got the quota of steel and sold it further to the actual foundries who were going to do the work. And this I have seen with my own eyes what was going on. And where is the income coming to those people who got their license and the quota? just by making money, selling it further, getting it and giving it. It's just like, somebody gets the agency of Usha and keeps a margin and gives it to somebody else. So now trade unions. This was the greatest nightmare. You see, with the trade unions in the initial stages of industrialization, they are the greatest roadblock, especially if those trade unions are influenced by communist slogans. So this started right away. And trade unions would interfere with the computerization. When the computerization started in 1960s, the trade unions were against that because they said that it is cutting down on the labor, so shrinking labor market. And they would sabotage, actually burn the industry or resources. And this was happening when I was still in India. It continued from Nehru's time. And a gentleman, I quoted him, he was working in Belai steel plant. He was a freshly recruited, appointed mechanical engineer. And he gave me a write-up, which I included in the book, in his domestic policy, under that heading. And he says how much power the unions had, that at the highest level, if the senior officer said to the minister that, we need less people, less number of people in the night shift, we only need 3 people. But if the union approached them that we need 10 people, the minister will say, yes, 10 people. So 10 people are getting the salary, 3 people are actually working. So that is why the public sector output, productivity was nothing. They were running in losses. Same thing happened to when they bought the nationalized Air India, the nationalized Indian Airlines. So everything deteriorated because too much regulation, too much corruption at every level, too many ministries, and too much communistic influence through the trade unions. And at the end of the 5th plan, I met a government officer in one of my trips, and I asked him that poverty is not reduced, unemployment has not been created. And I asked him how many plans are needed to reduce poverty and create employment. He said, in this structure, socio-political, economic structure, nothing will change. And that was his. Another officer, very high up, I am not including their names, even though they died. I asked them that what these rotten things are going on in the country. What is the government doing? Are they blind or they pretend to be blind? I said it in Punjabi. I said, "Anne ne ke machle ne," and he said both. So they are blind and they also pretend to be blind. Now, projects and their success. Irrigation was needed, and the flood control was also needed, which meant that all the major rivers, which were perennial and used to get flooded, they should be part of a grid. So through the canal, the water should be linked with different rivers. So the flood water will go into the those channels, and there won't be any floods and there won't be any water shortages for the farmers. Did that happen to this day? No. Countries is still flooded in the monsoons. Irrigation is still scarce. Why? For the reason that whatever little electricity was produced, that was not enough. And when it was distributed in different states, from say Bhakran Nangal, just one example, there was nothing much left for the people in Punjab. The second thing, major flaw that I don't understand, where were the geologists at that time? The river system in the northern India originates from Himalayas, which is mud and pebbles. And at higher levels, they were stones. But where the river came down, it brought all the mud and the pebbles, and they will choke at some point the flow of the rivers. So, if an Himalaya is called Geru mountain because it is red mud of which it is composed. So, and that is very pulverized. So, when you make a dam over joining one end to the Himalayas and the next to the land, that dam will not be able to withstand the force of water. That we have seen in Kedarnath, that we saw in 1993, when the entire Punjab was flooded and the engineer had to open one of the locks because the dam would break down. You see, if the water is stored in Govinda Sagar, but that is full, then what is he going to do? The engineer, chief engineer, he opened one lock out of the three. Now you see, these are nitty-gritty details not coming to the eyes of the general people, not highlighted even. But these are major flaws. They did not understand the dams which we are building. They have a unstable foundation. One, because one end is meeting the Himalayas. Second, the mud would come and do the sedimentation in the reservoir and it will be silty. So you have to continue removing the silt. Thirdly, much of the water is, you all know that many parts of Himalayas has salt rock. Actual salt rock is coming from Himalayas, not from any other mountain in the world, mountain chain. So that salt is collected and not filtered, and that is going to the all the agricultural region. So this kind of thing, if you connect together, how the agricultural productivity is affected. A, too much salt in the soil. B, irregular water supply. C, electricity failure. And how will those big irrigation, water irrigation will continue if there is no electricity? So things are electrified, but there is no electricity. Same thing with plants, same thing with every small industry, same thing with big industry. So nothing could move because the Nehru's decisions were idealistic. He did not consult people on the ground. When you are starting building dams, you have to ask the geologist. You consider the geography. You consider the canals, that if a canal is channelized like this, what will happen to one river, Yamuna River? Yamuna River gradually became dry. If you go to Agra, there is no Yamuna River. What happened? You see, right before our eyes, within the 40 years, the country had really hit the worst. And steel plants, again, the same thing. Bihar was the junction from where the steel was going to Asansol, other places. Patna was the junction. And when I was working in Calcutta, the maximum robberies were happening at Patna. The steel rods are coming, and just before Patna, the train is stopped, and those rods are removed. Something else, raw iron ore is placed there, and steel is sold in the black market. It is pathetic. The more I dug up, the more I thought that this is hopeless. And this is our own government doing. Of course, there are foreign collaborations with the steel plants. Most of the funding came from different countries because it was in their interest that India should be industrialized, especially heavy industry. Foreign collaborators also started withdrawing their funds when they saw that there is no productivity and there is interference by the unions at every level, threatening and destroying the resources. That dwindled down. This affected the public exchequer and foreign exchange scarcity. You see, things are so complicated and linked. It was very hard for me to, separate one from the other. And then, as if that was not enough, as soon as Patel died, Ambedkar was not in the picture. He started. He gave a new name to the Republic of India. Instead of sovereign democratic republic, it became secular socialist republic. You see, now this means a whole lot of things, and everybody, communist leaning education ministers, Irfan Habib, and all of those, I've forgotten the names, starting from Maulana Azad. I gave the list of various education ministers, except 3 or 4, all were Muslims. Why were all Muslims for a Hindu majority country in charge of education and human resources? So, secularism means that the state is promoting communalism. And I'm giving you one example of this, practical. When Somnath temple was being rebuilt, there was a groundbreaking ceremony. So the president, Rajendra Prasad, he said that we should go. You should also go. He says, my going there would mean Hindu revivalism. Please note this word. He was anti-Hindu right from the beginning, Hindu revivalism. And he advised, not advised, he asked Dr. Rajendra Prasad, you also don't go. And if anybody goes from the government, he will be considered going without pay for that day. See, such high-handedness and such hatred. So Rajendra Prasad went, and he gave a very good speech there. And Nehru knew that he's going to give a pro-Hindu speech. He asked the All India radio stations to block that speech. So not many people know these. You see, after in 20 years of research, I found a whole lot of rot that he placed in different departments. So education, one of them, destroying history, de-Hinduizing India. Gandhi and Nehru had no roots in Hindu culture or a deeper understanding of the key concepts in Hindu Dharma. Not deeper, even superficial understanding. And they always said primitive, superstitious, and regressive. That is what was fed to Indian Foreign Service officers, that they should always talk about Western civilization, the height it has, the progressiveness of that. And you see, whole lot of things. So much so, in 2005, I met a Foreign Service officer in one of those Republic Day functions. And I asked him that which batch you are from, and casual conversation. He says, My teacher was Romila Thapar, and India was a primitive, superstitious, regressive country with a lot of oppression against people and women. And I am not much of a Hindu. It gave me such a shock. In 2005, here in Chesapeake, Virginia, openly an IFS officer says that what kind of message we are giving to the world. And now Hindus here are saying that, America is building anti-Hindu narrative. Who do you blame for? When I was fighting this cause, I met the state government officials, and they said that we are taking the information from your government's website. Now, how can I fight? If the government has not changed their website and they are putting these words, naturally the foreign countries are putting it in the global cultures, that image. And I explained the rebuilding. So pushed anti-Hindu narratives. And that Romila Thapar and the whole group of Muslims, and of course so-called secularists, they all gathered, they made pamphlets, what secularism means, how we are going to implement in this department, in that department. To that long pamphlet, S.R. Goel, he was a staunch Hindu and a very good speaker and writer. He gave a questionnaire to Romila Thapar, giving answer to every single point in the pamphlet. I gave it in the book. They are too long for me to remember. But to this day, Romila Thapar and company and the UPA government answered that. Not even one line in answer. So it is just pushed aside. The marginalization of Indic faith traditions, these people should understand, the next generation of Indians who are going to raise their children, that not only the government was doing it at different levels, promoting Christianity and Islam, but the communists and secularists were doing also, right? And on top of that, the way the judicial system was subverted, they are interfering now. Now the battle is not Modi's battle to uplift of bringing renaissance of Hindu culture. Now the roadblock is the judiciary. This is the Vedic Hindu ceremony, marriage ceremony is regressive. It hurts the women's rights. None of your business. Hindu traditions are traditions. And the constitution says that when it is a question of constitution and the common traditions will prevail. So, you see, we Hindus are somehow allergic to new knowledge. We also have a mental inertia to explore that what is going on, why it is going on, and what we can do. Counter narrative is only prepared when you understand your own faith, how scientific it is, and when you are understanding that what was done wrong to us. If you still say Gandhi ji, and let us go and offer flowers on his samadhi, then we haven't gotten rid of that mindset. And we have not a future. You see, I can teach my grandchildren and you can teach your grandchildren, but will it change the grassroots? That is the challenge that India is facing. My purpose was not to dig up the grave. Many people say that what's the point of talking about the past? No, if you don't know the past, you can never improve your future because you don't know what went wrong. So gradually, not only faith traditions were marginalized and forced conversions were going on, irrelevance of majority. You see, Congress party took for granted that majority is for a right. Let us say they will vote for us. Who else are they going to vote? You see, that is the kind of uh, they considered the superficiality and stupidity or laziness of Hindus. So gradually, majority became irrelevant. And while when Somnath temple was, Rajendra Prasad was asked not to go there, and that year, Nehru hosted iftar party for Muslims. It became a state festival where he is hosting as a prime minister a Muslim festival. So now you see what went wrong. Then fragmentation of society. Nehru created and used every fault line to rupture and create disharmony. Violation of right. Reservation was supposed to be only for SC, ST, and there were lists, and only for 10 years to give them a advantage. You see, the cultural disadvantage they had, but reservation was gradually, even during Nehru's time, it was expanded to on a religion base. I don't understand why, when were the British deprived? When were the Christians culturally deprived? When we were slaves? And when were the Muslims deprived? They don't belong in the minorities. But then the quotas were fixed, quotas were increased. And then the fracture was when the language regional distribution of the states happened, reorganization of states according to languages. That was the name. So at that time, the regional fracture came for the languages and for the river water disputes. Now 5 states are sharing Kaveri River. If you go to South India, Southern India, you will see in every state some part of Kaveri is there. Such a mighty river and dispute. Issue of national language. You see, it was decided that English will be the national language. What Modi has done is one of his greatest, just one of the greatest, which are many, achievement is that he started speaking Hindi. Now in parliament, except for those who pretend that they don't know Hindi, everybody speaks Hindi. So he has unofficially made Hindi the national language. You see? So there are so many news channels and private YouTube channels, newspaper channels, online papers, which are totally in Hindi and very pure Hindi. So this has changed, and I'm very happy. Now people will have a link to their ancient literature, not completely, but to some extent. And this star I put down because equality and inclusion, progress and development of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in independent India. This was an exhaustive report, I think 98 pages or something. And a gentleman from here, he took up this project, and being an engineer and a mathematics person, he made so many tables and diagrams. And he asked me to edit it. And I went over it at least 10 times. And finally, it was released. Did any Hindu in America or India even know about it? It was on the websites. This is so shameful. So please note down this name, Equality and Inclusion, And the name of the person is Rakesh Bahadur. He is here, Dr. PhD in environmental and something else, engineering. So, Rakesh, equality and inclusion, you put it in Google and Rakesh Bahadur, and it will come out. And I really recommend everybody to see, because in the book, I could not include 98 pages of his report. So, Supreme Court justices, I did discuss last time. Now, this is more than ever relevant. Right now, this is the greatest roadblock in Modi's way. You see, what can you do? While I was creating this slide, I had studied the English Constitution and American Constitution, of course. I taught it for 20 plus years. I read the other democratic countries' constitution and how are the judges appointed. In no country, judges appoint themselves. French constitution has a minister of justice, and he appoints. That means legislature and executive, they appoint the judges. But once they appoint, the judges are for life, unless the president says that something is wrong. So while we did the court packing and getting rid of the National Judicial Appointment Committee, the other countries never did that. Even though they have separation of powers, but you see how ugly the Senate hearings are when they appoint the Supreme Court justices. Absolutely going to the mudslinging. You see, but legislature has the power. Here, everybody has, zero power in the functioning of the judiciary. And most of the judges are picked up by me. I pick up your son will pick up my grandson, and it is in the dynasty moving on. And when necessary, they pack the court in order to have a favorable decision. So for Congress or criminals or mafia, political mafia, the Supreme Court will open in the middle of the night, and in the pajamas, the Supreme Court judges will come in their pajamas and robes over that at 12 o'clock. But for the general people, they are scheduled to come 10 o'clock, they'll come at 12, 2 o'clock they go for lunch, then they come whenever they come, at 4 o'clock they leave, and people are waiting up to 6 o'clock that our turn will come. It is pathetic. It is really, and now I just studied this and I wrote it down, that they are considered civil servants. Now, what is the position of the civil servants? They are under the government of India. And like the civil servants, they are governed under the laws made by the legislature, passed by the executive, implemented by the executive. Of course, they are approved by a special panel. But who appoints a special panel? Again, the executive and the legislature. Whereas Parliament has absolutely zero power over the functioning of the judiciary. So here the Minister of Justice in France, he is overall in charge of the judiciary. So we, Nehru's rule and legacy, we fulfilled Churchill's prophecy. What did Churchill predict? 20 years before India's independence, he said that if India gets freedom, it will be ruled by con artists, charlatans, and ruffians. So now you can put that these people are all of the above. So corruption started. Somebody in 1954 said that, Punjab is in the grip of corruption and Caro is really very corrupt. And you know what Nehru said? Nehru said, what difference does it make? in Hindi, he said, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, मुल्क का पैसा मुल्क में ही है. What kind of a remark is that corruption is permitted? What difference does it make if the poor man is giving a bribe to a rich officer? Money is still in India. So, and dynastic rule. Caron started his own dynasty, Badal started his own dynasty, Dev Gowda started his own, Karunanidhi his own. So everybody started considering each of the state is their own small kingdom, and they have a dynastic rule. And then marginalization, the genocide of Brahmins, I discussed, witch hunt of RSS. This in detail has started coming out now, this information. A lot of people, just mere suspicion that they have RSS leanings, they are kicked out of the government service in 1949-50. And there are many accounts written by different public servants. So whole establishment was hell-bent on selling Nehru as a permanent hero. Everybody thought that except Nehru, India cannot be governed. And when I say establishment, I was part of it. Because in 1964, when he died, I remember I was traveling. I picked up a newspaper at Etawah. And from Etawah to Delhi, I cried so badly. Then now what? So we were all part of that establishment. And they thought that Nehru is the permanent hero. He is the panacea for all ills at all times. And we cannot replace. So now the task had, why all this, the challenge for Indians. You see, people of my age will be here, not there tomorrow. But one should get rid of Gandhian ideas. Gandhi was not a solution to any problem. He was a problem by himself. Quirks of his personality, whimsical, his illogical solutions. And the socio-economic problems of the nation, which are due to Gandhi's. So this is the task. If anybody to whom my voice reaches, my purpose is that they should avoid, steer clear of Gandhi's. And the perceptions and myths which are surrounding Gandhi and Nehru, get rid of them methodically. And then those myths, try to understand what are those myths. That India was a poor country, India was caste-ridden, India was primitive, barbaric. Every time the invader came, they rescued. And the British were the greatest, benefiters, who started the progress in India. You see, all of these myths we have to get rid of. And in the Vedas and many other mantras, and it is said that what kills the avidya and illusion. You see, Shankaracharya, crystal clear words were, what can kill avidya and maya, which is ignorance and illusion? And the answer was knowledge, vivek. So if we say that we are not interested in history and we are not interested in ancient literature, then that means you are cutting your roots, and you are like cut flowers. They will last in water for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So please understand the challenges that the next generations of Indians have, your children, grandchildren. They will have to find what is the weakest link in the chain. Modi is promoting a whole lot of multifarious change in progress in India. But the end of it all, there must be a weak link. You see, if you think of a chain, it is made of different links. If there is one link which is rusted, it will snap. That rusted part in the chain of thinking, mindset, and ideology, or say policy, we have to find that weakest link. There must be 2, 3 more. And for each such link, most of the people who are in the field of research, they should develop the plan how to strengthen that weak link. So this is somehow a kind of a challenge. And probably I would say that all of those people who are listening and going to read it or listen, they should find a solution. Please consider this as your homework. How can we get rid of myths and perceptions? And how can we find a strategy to strengthen the weakest link, the rusted link? And now that was the task ahead for homework for every thinking Indian. Thank you very much. And now if you have questions. Oops.
Yeah, if there are any questions, please ask now.
What did I do? What did I do? क्या हो गया? चलो.
Yeah,
Thank God.
Kamlesh, the first thing, as I understand, is the knowledge. You
Yeah.
have started that process, and we have to spread the knowledge about what was wrong, and still it's wrong. And then possibly, and that is the biggest challenge now, to spread the knowledge.
Correct. That is exactly what I am doing. I am not doing any activism now. I was doing it 5 years back, and then I
Yes.
stopped. And I thought that the only thing I can do is make people aware, if they want to be aware. If they want to be aware.
Yes,
So-
So Kamlesh, you know me from the couple of years from the
Couple-
meetings in waves.
Couple of decades. I know you from 2000.
So, yeah. So it started. It is started, but proceeding little slowly. I wish it could be more.
We all do.
So
Okay. So, Pradeep ji, I think Pradeep
Yeah.
ji said,
I was, listening to you very carefully, and I noticed a few things. Just like you explained, zamindari and alienation of Brahmins. So those were, kind of death nails in the Hindu system in the post-independence era, because that removed the control on the society. Society got fragmented because there was nobody to establish any order. And what we are seeing, the lawlessness, we are seeing everybody challenging the foundations of Hinduism. That has roots there. Because at the moment, if a person, suppose a Shankaracharya or a Brahman says something about the Hinduism, he is ridiculed by communists and by those who don't understand Hinduism. In other religions, there is an order. There is a priest in church who dictates, okay, this is the Christianity. There is a Maulvi. He says this is Islam. And he is considered, authority on the religion. He establishes the order in his religion. In Hinduism, the head has been chopped off. So the thing is, there is no order. And until the order is established, I don't think there is, any possibility of unity. So Hindus have to think first who they have to listen to and who really is the authority on Hinduism, who establishes and, who establishes the foundations and who can really explain how Hinduism works. So these things are, missing in the system. And communists are fueling that system that they should not think. They should think like individual. They should not think that there is a head, there is, somebody who can establish the order. So that orderliness is absent. And I believe that there has to be a system which brings order, some discipline among Hindus.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a question, it's a relevant question in the sense that why he dug or why he did not revive. That was his. But why did Hindu society not get united? Basically, that is your question. And your suggestion is that, like other religions, we should have some authority who will guide people. That will never happen. That has never happened. That is not what Hindu Dharma is. Hindu Dharma basically is aspirations, as per Vedas, it is aspirations. And each person understands and interprets according to himself. Hindu Dharma itself gives complete freedom. We will never have a founder kind of person because Hindu Dharma is Sanatan, beginningless. If there is no founder, there is no hierarchy, right? And even if there is, you establish a hierarchy, Hindus will never accept it because each one is free to set the goals. The broad guidelines are there. If only people read Bhagavad Gita 100 times, you will understand the psychological meanings, the philosophical meanings, and the physical nature of the world. So your three questions for how to teach Hindu Dharma to your children revolves only around three things. Who are you? A small child asks them, who are you? And then you ask them where you are. And that explains Prakriti. Then you say how the Prakriti is changing from one day to the other. That brings transformation, recycling, and reincarnation. And then you link it with the cosmic law, that seasons will come according to a certain cosmic rotatory, circulatory way. So since nothing in our philosophical arena is linear, everything is cyclical, repetitive. Even the months are hard.
Yeah.
And, just let me finish. So therefore, that linear kind of thing will not be there. Second thing is, Hindu is a dharma. It is not a religion founded by a person. That is one of the basic things. When we use ism, we assume that somebody started. Ism definition is canon doctrine started by a founder.
Let me explain here. Yeah.
Let me tell you something, that it cannot be the resurgence of Hindu Dharma cannot be a revolution imposed from above. It has to grow from parents. That is how our grandmothers and mothers taught us.
Now, let me explain here. Yeah. We have a system, and the system is, there is a head, there is a body, there are hands, there is, feet. That is an organization. And any organization is led by somebody. If we don't have an organization, then why we have, 4 Varnas? Varnas means organization. Hinduism is an organization. And in the modern times, organization is needed more than anything. We are fighting, religious organizations, fanatics, who are fully organized, even militarized. So for, fighting such organized religions, surviving in the, this hostile environment, we don't believe that until we have a commander, we can really, really survive. Any army, if every soldier thinks of himself, thinks that, okay, alone I can fight an organized army, I'm not sure that he can succeed. Armies need commanders. Religions are like armies. If they don't have commander, they're bound to fail.
It is not the gist of Hindu Dharma. That you were talking about feet and head, that is a social order. And that comes from a cultural ethos. So in between, there is a cultural ethos which is shaped by Hindu Dharma. So that particular part, societal structure, that was never for social classes, they were for economic classes, for organizational purposes created. So I give you one example that here everybody is talking about caste. The king of Magad asked Buddha, Gautam Buddha, who are you? You look like a royal person, but your face, you are attired as a beggar. And the way he introduced, he did not say, I'm Kshatriya, Brahman, or what, and what is my occupation. No, his answer was, this is my name, Jati. Jatya means, kiske ghar mein janam hua? Who are my parents? So he said, Siddharth is my given name, Shakya is my clan who raised me, gave me birth, and Gautam is my Gotra, and I don't have any Varan now because nothing belongs to me and I don't belong to anybody. So what the system, our system was not fourfold. Our system was just based on lineage, which is Gotra, Shakya, your surname, and first name. That's it. Caste was not there. I have created a pamphlet for your knowledge.
I'm not talking about caste. I'm talking about the Varna.
No. But you are talking about the social structure.
Social structure comes from the Varna. Okay.
No. Yeah. It was a social.
Yeah, I'm talking the Varna ashram. Yeah. I'm not talking about the caste.
Okay.
And caste is, Varna ashram is an organization.
Varna ashram is an economic.
It's an organization. Yeah.
Economic.
It defines the society.
No.
That who is doing what.
Yeah.
And Buddhism. I don't believe in Buddhism. I don't believe in Buddha. He was not a Hindu. He, changed his religion. He started a new religion. Ooh. So Buddha, I don't think even was a Hindu.
No, he was Hindu.
Yeah, Buddha was not a Hindu. He was born Hindu, but he changed his religion. He started a new religion.
He did not start any religion.
Yeah. No, Buddhism is a religion. It is against all the foundations of Hinduism. Yeah.
No.
Buddhism is against Hinduism. Shankaracharya defeated Buddhism only for Buddhism was against the foundations of Hinduism. If we believe in Buddha, we cannot believe in Shankaracharya. That's the point. We can believe in one. We cannot believe in both.
No.
Either we believe in Buddha or we believe in Shankaracharya. I believe in Shankaracharya. I don't believe in Buddha.
Okay. Let us disagree at this point. Yeah. I have a paper written which I presented in Bhopal at the time. Sanchi University was being established, and the name was
Buddha killed thousands of Brahmins. Yeah, so I don't believe in Buddha.
No. Yeah. Buddhist Vedic University of India. That was the name, and it is established in Sanchi. And I read a paper. And one side you put Bhagavad Gita, one side you put Vinay Pataka. They are exactly the same. So if you want, I can put the paper.
No, I studied about all religions.
No. You see, there is always a different perspective, right? Your understanding can be different from mine. And Hindu Dharma says you should have different perspective. The only thing is you have to converge at the basic scientific fact. And that is a whole different issue. If you want to link with me on that, it is on Facebook, Hindu Dharma Teaching Guide. And that is where we have that discussion. So we can discuss that. Here, I am just saying the political impact and educational impact. And we could not respond. Now we are waking up because there is a sympathetic government at the top. So establishment has to be sympathetic. And now you have to explore. Some people are doing it. But in order to learn something new, you have to forget something you believed wrong. I did the same thing. I scratched Swamis. I don't have a guru. I read by myself. And I culled the scientific elements. I don't need a guru. And Hindu Dharma doesn't say you need a guru. Guru is a teacher, guide. But guru is not starting a cult. That what the guru says, that is it. So we will never have any kind of that organization or that mindset. And I don't think we should not. Free will is what we are going to preserve.
We need an organization, we need leadership. Otherwise,
we will have a private conversation on that. Yeah, because other people may not be that. Naresh, boliye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar ji.
How are you? Very good talk today. So I have a comment and a question. My comment is, when India got freedom, in the world around us, also there was a Cold War starting between Soviet and its countries, his camp. And the other side of the Cold War was America, right? And at least in 50s, it looked like Soviet may be doing okay, maybe even coming out ahead with Sputnik and all the satellite programs. But in the end, we all know in 90s how the Cold War ended and how the Russia kind of broke up. So Nehru was, even though he called us non-aligned, but he was a lot aligned with Russia and sort of opposite to American camp. But now the world order is changing. So can you please comment on how, the defeat of communism around the world, it may also help India get more integrated, more with the Western practices and the democracy and those things in the world?
I don't understand the last part you said. We
the-
should become
the
more
world-
Western,
Yeah,
come
the
into
world order.
Western hemisphere. I mean,
Okay.
be more like Western civilizations.
No, not like Western civilization, but the idea that India had of socialist republic and its 5-year plans, we borrowed a lot from Soviet economy, and those ideas have been now discredited. They didn't even work for Russia itself, right? And all the countries which were aligned with Russia at that time, like North Korea or East Germany, economically they didn't do well, right? They ended up switching over to more democratic way of doing things. So first of all, I think if the world order was different at that time, maybe Nehru did not have at that time then the impetus to bring in 5-year plan and the socialist idea in India. But I think he was encouraged by Russia's presence and influence. But now that on the world stage, that influence has gone down. The USSR doesn't exist anymore. So how is it helping India also change the tilt away from the socialist republic that Nehru was trying to build into it? Is it going to accelerate that change away back to where it should have been in the normal?
Change is happening, but not the way you are describing. The change is happening because India is becoming more neutral, even though the leaning are with Russia for common interest. One thing, the world alignments are going to change now because of this Ukraine war. Pretty soon, even in the next couple of years, the alignments are going to change. India's interest, as Modi has already emphasized, is remaining neutral. America is not a good friend, and it is a worst enemy. So aligning with America is a very dangerous thing. In fact, Henry Kissinger was asked, should you have America as a country, I mean, another country, a country should have America as a friend or as a foe. And Kissinger said that America is a no, his word was treacherous. America is a treacherous friend. See, and a deadly enemy.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you.
Trump
Yeah.
is gone, and he was friendly. This person has come, he is not friendly. So because
He's not
America
friendly.
itself is changing every 4 years. America is a
Yes.
declining power going downhill exactly like this. We are ascending. Ascent is always slow. Descent is so fast. You have seen in 2 years what is happening. So India should
Yes.
not be in the Western fold at all. They are crippled economies and they are third-rate powers. India will be a rising power, and it should remain neutral and helping everybody. So,
Okay.
and the world order is going
Thank
to
you,
change.
Auntie. Yeah, good answer. Thank you.
That if question doesn't arise,
Yeah.
if it were that alignment at that time, no, so much water has gone under the bridge. You cannot talk about the hypothetical if it were that time that. Anyway, so that's it. No more questions. Okay. So we are done for today. Rajiv?
Yeah. If there are no more questions, then it's done for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you all for attending.
Now, next meeting is exactly the same pattern, 11:30?
Yeah. We wanted to keep the India time constant. So
No,
we don't.
I am not in India. So I am just asking you. So
No.
we recording?
Yeah, if you want to do it earlier, it's fine.
No. I'm fine either way. What